After paying for a meal for an elderly man, the restaurant owner fired her. Hours later, she was surprised by what happened. Amanda Taylor, a 25-year-old young woman, worked as a waitress at Bright Diner, a popular corner restaurant in the small town of Fairview. Though she had been there for less than a year, she was already one of the most beloved employees by the regular customers. Her warm smile and attentive manner set her apart, even in an environment where the pace and stress were constant. Amanda's life wasn't easy. Since her mother, Patricia, had been diagnosed with a chronic illness, Amanda had taken on the financial responsibility for the household. She worked long hours at Bright Diner, but the salary was just enough to cover medical expenses and basic bills. However, Amanda always believed that despite the difficulties, helping others was what really mattered in life. That afternoon, the restaurant was particularly busy. It was lunchtime, and the Bright Diner staff could barely keep up with the flow of orders. Amanda moved from table to table, taking orders quickly, but always offering a smile and a kind word to customers, even in the midst of the rush. The restaurant manager, Mr. Johnson, was a strict and demanding man. He had little time for small talk and even less for displays of kindness that, according to him, only slowed down the service. To him, efficiency was what mattered most. Amanda, however, had a different view. She believed that beyond serving food, the restaurant should be a place where people felt welcomed. As she hurried from one table to another, Amanda noticed the arrival of an elderly man, visibly worn out and tired. He wore worn-out clothes and looked at the menu with a mixture of hunger and concern. Something in his gaze caught Amanda's attention. It was as if the weight of the world was on his shoulders, and Amanda, with her sensitivity, felt that something was not right. The elderly man approached the counter with hesitant steps, slowly counting the few coins he had in hand. Amanda discreetly watched as he asked about the price of a simple meal, a modest dinner consisting of meat, potatoes, and vegetables. She realized he didn't have enough to pay. Her heart tightened. Amanda knew the restaurant's policy was strict. It wasn't allowed to give away food for free or use personal money to pay for customers. Mr. Johnson made that very clear. However, at that moment, Amanda couldn't ignore the desperate look of the man in front of her. She knew he needed that meal, perhaps more than any other customer that day. Taking a deep breath, Amanda made a decision. She opened her purse and took out some bills, discreetly placing them in the register while processing the elderly man's order. "Don't worry, sir. Your meal is already paid for," she said softly, trying to hide the nervousness in her voice. The elderly man raised his eyes, surprised. For a moment, he was speechless, and Amanda could see the gratitude growing in his eyes. "You didn't have to." "Thank you." "Really?" he murmured, his voice weak but filled with emotion. Amanda just smiled and said, "It's the least I can do." She quickly prepared the meal and handed it to the man. He sat at a table in the corner of the restaurant and began eating slowly, savoring every bite, as if he hadn't eaten anything like that in a long time. Amanda felt a warm wave of satisfaction. Despite her own struggles, that simple act of kindness felt right, as if it was her small contribution to making the world a better place, even if just for a moment. However, as Amanda tried to return to her routine, Mr. Johnson, who had been watching from a distance, approached her. His face was serious, and Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. "I saw what you did," he said in a cold tone. "You paid for that man's meal, didn't you? That goes against the restaurant's policies, Amanda. I can't allow this kind of behavior to continue." Amanda, who had been calm until that moment, felt her heart race. She knew she had broken the rules, but the thought of losing her job, her only source of income, was terrifying. He really needed help," she replied, trying to stay calm. Mr. Johnson shook his head, unyielding. "Rules are rules, Amanda. You're fired." Those words hit Amanda like a crushing weight. She stood still for a few moments, trying to process what had just happened. Everything around her seemed to slow down. She had lost her job for an act of kindness. The sense of injustice was overwhelming, but at the same time, Amanda knew that, despite everything, she didn't regret helping that elderly man. Amanda felt her heart sink as Mr. Johnson's words echoed in her mind. "You're fired." What would she do now? The paycheck from Bright Diner was the only income supporting her home and paying for her mother's medical bills. But as these thoughts raced through her head, one thing stood out. She had no regrets. The elderly man she had helped was now sitting at a table, eating his meal as if it were his first in days. Seeing the gratitude in his eyes made the sacrifice worth it, even if the consequences were severe. She left Bright Diner with heavy steps, holding her belongings without even looking back. The afternoon sun was shining, but to Amanda, the world seemed covered by a shadow of uncertainty. She didn't know how she would tell her mother she had lost her job. She didn't know how she would keep up with the bills. Amanda wandered aimlessly through the streets of the town. She passed by shops and cafes, but her mind was far away, consumed by her own problems. The image of Mr. Johnson scolding her repeatedly flashed in her thoughts, mixed with the image of the elderly man smiling in gratitude as he ate his meal. Finally, she found herself in a nearby park. It was a place she sometimes visited to clear her mind, a quiet space surrounded by trees and wooden benches. Amanda sat on one of the benches, watching the children playing in the distance and the gentle wind swaying the leaves. It was hard to believe that in just a few hours, her life had taken such a drastic turn. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Amanda had always believed in the power of a kind act, but at that moment, she started to question her own convictions. Should she have followed the restaurant's rules and let the man leave hungry? Would her kindness always bring her more problems than solutions? As she was lost in these thoughts, she heard footsteps approaching. When she opened her eyes, she saw the same elderly man she had helped at the restaurant, now standing in front of her with a concerned look on his face. "Miss, I hope you didn't get in trouble because of me," he said, his voice hesitant and his shoulders slumped. There was something vulnerable about him, as if he was used to being ignored or treated with disdain. Amanda quickly shook her head. "Don't worry about that, sir. I did what I thought was right," Amanda replied with a soft smile. "I just hope you enjoyed the meal." The man nodded, his eyes welling up. "It was the first decent meal I've had in days. I don't know how to thank you." Amanda felt a wave of emotion rush through her body. It was just a simple plate of food, but for him, it had meant so much more. The empathy she had felt earlier at the restaurant came back stronger than ever. "You don't need to thank me. I just hope things get better for you." He seemed to hesitate for a moment, as if he was about to reveal something important. "My name is Henry Carter," he began, his voice a bit firmer. "I used to work as a mechanic, but life kept knocking me down. After I lost my wife and my home, I started wandering aimlessly. I've been like this for years. But today, miss, your gesture gave me something I haven't had in a long time. Hope." Amanda was silent for a moment, feeling his words resonate deeply within her. It was hard to imagine how someone's life could fall apart so completely. And yet, a simple meal had made such a big difference. "Henry," she began, her voice gentle. "We all go through tough times, but don't let that define your future. There's always a way to start over, to find a new path." Henry looked at her with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. "I know you probably have your own problems, and yet you helped me. That gives me the strength to try to move forward." Before Amanda could respond, a deep voice spoke from behind her. "So you're the one who helped Henry?" Amanda turned around and saw a well-dressed woman with a soft smile on her face. She looked about 50 years old and exuded an aura of confidence and compassion. "Sorry for the intrusion," the woman continued. "I'm Martha Collins. I saw what you did at the restaurant, and I was deeply moved. Henry has told me so much about your generosity." Amanda looked at Henry, confused, and then back at Martha. "I just did what anyone would have done," Amanda said, trying to downplay her gesture. Martha smiled, but her eyes shone with something more. "No, dear, not everyone would have done what you did." Amanda was speechless for a moment. She hadn't expected anyone to notice her act, much less that such a simple gesture would get this much attention. Henry was visibly emotional, and Martha, the woman now introducing herself, had a presence that conveyed compassion but also authority. Amanda didn't know what to say or how to react to this sudden change of events. "I saw you pay for Henry's meal at the restaurant," Martha continued, keeping her gaze fixed on Amanda. "And I also saw how that manager treated you afterward. I couldn't believe what happened." Amanda's stomach turned as she heard the woman's words. The memory of her dismissal was still fresh, and the pain of losing her job, the only source of income for her and her mother, hit her hard. "Yes," Amanda responded, her voice soft, almost inaudible. "Mr. Johnson wasn't happy with what I did. He fired me." Martha shook her head in disbelief. "It's unbelievable that something like this could happen. You did something good, something few people would do, and you were punished for it." "I understand that he was just following the restaurant's rules," Amanda said, trying to justify the manager's actions, even though deep down she knew it was unfair. "But I couldn't let Mr. Carter go hungry. It was a split-second decision. I just did what I thought was right." Henry, who had been silent until then, looked at Amanda with deep gratitude. "You did more for me than you can imagine," he said, his voice weak but steady. "It's not just about the food. It's about the fact that someone cared, someone saw me." Henry's words touched something deep inside Amanda. He was right. In the hustle and bustle of daily life, it was easy not to notice the people around you, especially those in need. The simple act of being seen and helped had a profound impact, something Amanda was just beginning to understand. Martha, watching the interaction between the two, smiled softly. "Henry is right, Amanda, and what you did cannot be overlooked. If you don't mind me asking, what are you going to do now?" The question caught Amanda off guard. What would she do now? Without the job at Bright Diner, she had no other source of income, and her mother's medical bills kept piling up. The reality of her situation began to weigh on her again. I don't know," Amanda admitted, her voice trembling. "I'm worried about my mother. She relies on me for care, and without the job, I don't know how I'm going to keep up with the bills." Martha leaned in slightly, as if assessing Amanda. "You have incredible strength, you know that? Even in the face of all this, you're still here, thinking of others." Amanda didn't know how to respond. Martha's kindness was comforting, but the fear of the future still haunted her. She had acted out of instinct, with kindness, but now she was paying a steep price for it. "Look," Martha said, "I know we don't know each other, but I have something to propose to you." Amanda looked up, curious. "I own an events company here in town, and I'm always looking for people with heart and character. I saw how you treated Henry, and how you put his needs above your own, even knowing you could lose your job. People like you are rare, Amanda." Amanda's mouth dropped open. What was Martha saying? "You mean?" "I want to offer you an opportunity," Martha continued. "I believe you have a lot to offer, and my company needs someone with your work ethic and compassion. If you're interested, I'd like you to come work with me." Amanda was frozen. The woman she had just met was offering her an opportunity that seemed surreal, especially after everything that had just happened. I don't know what to say," Amanda murmured, still in shock. Henry gave a small smile, his eyes full of understanding. "It looks like your kindness brought you a new chance, Amanda. You deserve it," Martha continued, keeping her calm and determined tone. "If you accept, we can start discussing the details. I'm confident that this opportunity could change your life in a big way." Amanda's heart was racing. She didn't know if she was dreaming or if this was really happening. Just 2 hours earlier, she had lost her job for an act of kindness. Now, she stood in front of a new chance to rebuild her life in a way she never could have imagined. The uncertainty was still there, but suddenly, a light appeared in the midst of the darkness. Amanda left the park with her mind full of thoughts. She had just gone through a whirlwind of emotions. On one hand, the pain of her dismissal still weighed on her heart, but on the other, an unexpected opportunity had come into her life, offered by a woman she barely knew, yet who already seemed to see something special in her. As she walked toward home, the fresh afternoon air helped clear her mind a little. Every step Amanda took felt heavy with doubt and unanswered questions. Could she trust Martha? Was the offer really as good as it seemed? She had just lost her only means of support, and now someone was offering her an opportunity that seemed like a blessing. The fear that all of this might be temporary or too good to be true began to grow inside her. She thought of her mother, Patricia, who was waiting for her at home. Amanda knew she would have to tell the truth, that she had lost her job. There was no avoiding the conversation, and that made her even more anxious. She knew her mother would be worried. The job at Bright Diner was their only source of income, and without it, Amanda had no idea how they would keep up with expenses. Arriving home, Amanda took a deep breath before going inside. Patricia was sitting in her usual chair, reading one of her favorite books. Even with her fragile health, she always tried to maintain a routine that brought her some comfort. Amanda felt a tightness in her chest as she saw her mother there, looking so peaceful, unaware of what her daughter had just gone through. "Hi, Mom," Amanda said, forcing a smile as she approached. "Hi, dear," Patricia replied, looking up from her book. "How was work today?" Amanda felt a lump form in her throat. It was always hard to hide anything from her mother, and she knew she wouldn't be able to lie. Sitting down next to Patricia, she decided to tell her everything. "Mom, I need to tell you something," Amanda began, hesitantly. "Today at the restaurant, something happened that changed everything." Patricia looked at her attentively, concerned. "What happened, Amanda?" Amanda took a deep breath before continuing. "I got fired." Patricia's expression immediately changed to one of concern. "Fired? But why? You've always been so dedicated to your job." Amanda told the story from the beginning about the elderly man, Henry, who didn't have enough money for a decent meal, and how she decided to pay for him out of her own pocket. She explained how the manager, Mr. Johnson, confronted her and without hesitation fired her. Patricia listened quietly, her eyes filled with concern, but also with understanding. When Amanda finished, her mother just sighed. "Amanda, I know you did what you thought was right. No matter what the rules say, you followed your heart. But now, Mom, we don't have any money." "I don't know what I'm going to do," Amanda confessed, her voice thick with emotion. "I wanted to help, but everything went wrong." Patricia reached out and held Amanda's hand firmly. "Dear, you did what any kind-hearted person would do. I know things are tough, but you're never alone in this." Amanda felt the tears starting to well up. Her mother always knew what to say to comfort her, even in the worst situations. But before she could respond, she remembered something important. "Lam, there's one more thing. After everything that happened, a woman named Martha offered me a job. She said she saw what happened at the restaurant and wants to hire me for her events company." Patricia was surprised by the news, but she couldn't hide her hopeful smile. "That's wonderful, Amanda. Maybe this dismissal was a step toward something better." Amanda, however, was still full of doubts. "I know, but what if it doesn't work out? What if it's too good to be true?" Patricia squeezed Amanda's hand a little tighter, looking deeply into her eyes. "Dear, sometimes life pushes us out of our comfort zones to take us to places we never imagined we'd be. Trust in yourself and in the kindness you've always shown. Good things happen to those who do good." Amanda smiled slightly, feeling a spark of hope reignite in her heart. Maybe her mother was right. Maybe this unexpected turn of events was actually an opportunity in disguise. Amanda didn't have all the answers, but at that moment, she decided she was willing to find out what the future had in store for her. Amanda spent the night wide awake, her emotions shifting between anxiety and hope. Martha's offer seemed like the solution to all her problems, but at the same time, something inside her still questioned if it was truly real. It was hard to believe that after such a bad day, such a good opportunity could suddenly appear. She had always heard of unexpected turns in people's lives, but now, this turn was right in front of her, and Amanda didn't know how to feel. The next morning, as she prepared to meet Martha at her office, Amanda tried to mentally ready herself. She knew her life could change completely depending on what happened in that meeting. As she left her house, the fresh morning breeze seemed to signal that something new and promising was coming her way. Yet, the doubt still lingered. The building where Martha's company, Collins Event Creations, was located was impressive, with large windows and a modern facade. Amanda walked in, feeling small in the face of such a grand place. The receptionist smiled at her and led her to Martha's office. When she entered, Martha was standing, looking out the window as if she were expecting something or someone. Noticing Amanda's arrival, she turned with a warm smile. "Amanda, I'm so glad you came. Please, have a seat," Martha said, gesturing to the chair in front of her. Amanda sat down, trying to control the nervousness she felt in her stomach. "Thank you for seeing me, Martha. I'm still trying to process everything that's happened." Martha laughed softly, sitting down behind her desk. I can imagine. Fate has a funny way of working, doesn't it? A simple meal for an elderly man, and now here we are, talking about a new opportunity for you. Amanda nodded, but the tension still hadn't lifted. She looked at Martha, hesitating before speaking. Martha, don't take this the wrong way, but why me? I'm not someone with big qualifications. I work as a waitress and take care of my mother. What makes you believe I'm the right person for your company? Martha looked at her with a sparkle in her eyes, as if she had been waiting for this question. Amanda, let me tell you something. A long time ago, when I started my business, no one believed in me. I was a young woman with no experience, but with a vision. One person believed in me when no one else did, and that trust changed my life. Now, I see in you the same potential that person saw in me. Amanda was silent for a moment, taking in those words. It was hard for her to see in herself what Martha saw, but at the same time, something inside her began to grow. A feeling that maybe, just maybe, she was capable of something greater. Martha continued, What you did for Henry that day was more than just an act of kindness. You showed an empathy that few people have, and that's what I'm looking for in my team. The technical part, you'll learn. What can't be taught is the heart. As Martha spoke, Amanda began to feel a mix of hope and fear. She wanted to believe she could be the person Martha was describing, but a persistent doubt still gnawed at her. What if I fail? Amanda whispered, almost to herself. Martha leaned forward, her eyes locked on Amanda's. Failure is part of the journey, Amanda. What matters is what you do after you fall. I don't expect you to be perfect. I expect you to be real. Amanda felt her eyes fill with tears. Those words struck deep in her heart, touching on her deepest insecurities. She had always believed that to be valued, she had to be flawless. Now, someone was telling her that her humanity was what made her valuable. It was an overwhelming, yet freeing revelation. Before Amanda could respond, the door to the office opened, and to her surprise, Henry, the elderly man she had helped, walked into the room, now dressed very differently. He wore clean clothes and looked much stronger than when Amanda had first seen him. Patricia smiled, squeezing her daughter's hand. I know you are. You've always been ready, even if you didn't realize it. The next morning, Amanda woke up with a new sense of purpose. She put on the best outfit she had, determined to make a good impression on her first day at Martha's office. When she arrived at the modern building, she was greeted by a welcoming team that immediately made her feel at ease. Throughout the day, Amanda dove into her work. As Martha had promised, her initial role was to help organize smaller events, ensuring that every client felt valued and that their needs were met with care and attention. There was a lot to learn, from the logistics of event planning to the finer details of creating personalized experiences, but Amanda was excited by the challenge. For the first time, she was in an environment where her natural empathy and communication skills were truly appreciated. With each meeting, each client she assisted, Amanda grew more confident, more certain that she was in the right place. Martha and Henry watched closely, offering guidance and support whenever needed. But most of all, they allowed Amanda to explore her own abilities, trusting that she would find her way in the world of event planning. One afternoon, while reviewing details for a charity event they were organizing, Amanda noticed a piece of paper left on Martha's desk. Curious, she picked it up and saw that it was a letter. It was a thank you note from a satisfied client, but what caught her attention was the name signed at the bottom. Helen Carter. Helen Carter. The last name made her think of Henry. Was it just a coincidence, or was there more to discover about his past? Amanda hesitated but decided it wasn't the right time to ask questions. There was still a lot of work to be done, and she didn't want to seem intrusive. As the days passed, Amanda felt more and more at home at Martha's company. Event planning had become more than just a job. It was a way to express her own desire to make a difference, to create moments that connected people. She quickly stood out, being praised for her attention to detail and her natural way of dealing with clients. Then, a few weeks later, Martha called her in for a private meeting in her office. Amanda walked in, curious about what would be discussed, but also with a hint of anxiety. Martha greeted her with the same warm smile as always, but this time there was something different in the air. Amanda, I wanted to bring you in to talk about something very important, Martha began, gesturing for Amanda to sit. Since you started here, I've been watching your progress, and you've exceeded all my expectations. Amanda felt her heart race. She was excited to hear what would come next, but also proud of what she had achieved so far. Thank you, Martha. I've been working hard to do my best. Martha nodded. I know, and that's exactly why I want to offer you a new responsibility. We have a big charity event coming up, something that's very important to our company and to me personally. I would like you to lead the organization of this event. Amanda was speechless. Lead such a big event? She still considered herself new to this world and felt she had so much more to learn. Me? Lead this event? But, Martha, I'm still new here. What if I mess everything up? Martha smiled, her confidence in Amanda clear in every word. Amanda, trust me, you have everything it takes to make this event a success. I'll be here to help you with whatever you need, but I want you to take the reins. I have complete faith in you. Amanda's heart raced, but this time it was a mix of fear and excitement. It was the kind of challenge she had never faced before. But if Martha believed in her, maybe it was time for her to start believing in herself too. Amanda left Martha's office feeling a whirlwind of emotions. The opportunity she had just been given was enormous, a challenge that could solidify her position in the company and prove to herself that she was on the right path. But the responsibility was also overwhelming. The charity event Martha entrusted to her wasn't just any event. It was one of the company's most important, something deeply meaningful to Martha, and now Amanda carried the weight of leading it. In the days that followed, Amanda threw herself into the work. She spent late nights reviewing details, talking with vendors, ensuring that every part of the event was perfectly in place. Martha kept a close eye on things, but gave Amanda the freedom to make decisions. The constant support from Martha and Henry, combined with Amanda's tireless effort, created an environment of trust and growth. But as the day of the big event approached, Amanda began to feel an increasing pressure. The responsibility of making sure everything went perfectly kept her up at night, going over every detail and wondering if something might go wrong. On the morning of the event, Amanda arrived at the venue hours before everyone else. She wanted to make sure everything was perfect, from the decorations to the background music. The hall was being set up with flowers and twinkling lights, and the tables already arranged looked stunning. As she watched the space come together, a wave of accomplishment washed over her. She had gotten this far through her dedication, and now it all seemed worth it. But just before the guests started arriving, something unexpected happened. While Amanda was overseeing the final touches, she saw a familiar figure walk through the main entrance. For a moment, her heart stopped. It was Mr. Johnson, the same man who had fired Amanda from Bright Diner just weeks before. He didn't see her immediately, but Amanda knew that encounter was inevitable. Mr. Johnson was dressed in a sharp suit, clearly one of the important guests at the event. Amanda tried to keep her composure, but memories of that day at the diner flooded her mind. The humiliation, the feeling of helplessness after being dismissed for doing the right thing. And now here he was, at an event she was leading. Mr. Johnson finally saw her. His eyes widened in recognition, and he walked toward her with a confused expression. "Amanda?" he said, as if he couldn't believe she was there. Amanda took a deep breath, trying to control the surge of emotions. "Mr. Johnson," she responded, keeping her tone professional despite all that had happened between them. "What are you doing here? Do you work here?" He seemed genuinely confused, perhaps even a bit uncomfortable. Amanda realized he didn't know how to handle the situation. "Yes, I work here," she replied, lifting her chin. "In fact, I'm the one responsible for organizing this event." The surprise in Mr. Johnson's eyes was clear. He seemed unable to reconcile the image of the young woman he had fired weeks ago with the confident woman now standing before him, leading one of the most important events in the city. "I had no idea," he murmured, at a loss for words. Amanda maintained her posture, but inside, her heart was racing. She had never imagined she'd have to face the man who fired her, let alone in such a contrasting position to where she had been before. She could have taken the moment to confront him, to point out the injustice he had done to her. But something inside her held her back. Amanda knew this wasn't the time for revenge. She had moved forward on her own path, and now the success she had achieved was the best response she could give. "I hope you enjoy the event," Amanda said with a professional smile before turning to continue her preparations. Mr. Johnson watched her for a few moments, still stunned, before giving a slight nod and walking away. Amanda felt the weight of the encounter slowly lift. She had been through so much since that day at Bright Diner, and now, here she was, leading an event that would be remembered by many. As the guests arrived, the hall filled with smiles, conversations, and soft music. The event was a success, and Amanda felt a wave of relief and accomplishment. She was finally where she was meant to be, in a place where her skills, her empathy, and her inner strength were truly valued. Martha approached her at the end of the night with a proud smile. "You did an incredible job, Amanda. This event was perfect." Amanda smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Martha, and without Henry." Martha nodded, her eyes glowing with pride. "But in the end, Amanda, it was you who made it all happen. I always knew you had it in you." Amanda looked around the hall full of happy, satisfied people, feeling an inner peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. The journey hadn't been easy, but every step, every challenge had led her to this moment. As the event came to a close, Amanda watched the hall slowly empty. The last guests left with smiles on their faces, some still talking about how flawless the evening had been. She felt a rare sense of calm wash over her after weeks of intense work. Everything had gone right. What once felt like an overwhelming responsibility was now an undeniable victory. While gathering some papers at the organizing table, Amanda heard footsteps approaching. She looked up to see Henry walking toward her, with a soft, sincere smile on his face. "I told you that you would do it," he said, pride in his voice. "You turned this night into something special." Amanda laughed, still surprised by how life had brought her to this moment. "I don't know if I'll ever get used to this. It still feels surreal." Henry shook his head, his eyes shining with admiration. "Believe me, Amanda, you're just getting started. And it all began with that day at the restaurant. Your act of kindness was the starting point for all of this." Amanda reflected for a moment. It was true. A simple act of helping a man in need had triggered a chain of events she could never have predicted. Life has mysterious ways of rewarding kindness, and now she was reaping the rewards of what she had sown. Have you ever thought that sometimes the most important things in life come from the most unexpected moments? Amanda asked, her voice low, almost as if speaking to herself. Henry nodded. Always. Sometimes what seems like the end is just the beginning of something much bigger. Before Amanda could respond, Martha approached them, a look of pure joy on her face. "I knew you were the right person to lead this event, Amanda. Tonight was a success because of you. I'm so proud of you." Already emotionally overwhelmed, Amanda smiled as her eyes filled with tears. "I just want to thank both of you. Without your support, I wouldn't have made it here." Martha took Amanda's hand, squeezing it warmly. "You have a bright future ahead, Amanda, and I'm honored to be a part of it." Henry, always quiet and observant, stepped forward and added, "You've transformed your life, Amanda. What you've built here wasn't just an event. It was a reflection of the incredible person you are." Those words hit Amanda in a way she hadn't expected. For so long, she had underestimated her abilities. The fear of failure had followed her. But now, at that moment, she realized that she had surpassed even her own expectations. She was no longer the uncertain young woman who had been fired weeks ago. Now she was a woman who had earned her place. Martha looked at her with a satisfied smile, and without losing her warm tone said, "Amanda, I think you should give the closing speech. There's no better way to end the night than with words from the person who made it all possible." Amanda's heart raced for a moment, but she knew she was ready. She walked to the small stage set in the center of the hall, took the microphone, and looked at the crowd that remained. People who had helped make the event a success, her team, and of course, Martha and Henry. "I just want to thank all of you for being here tonight," Amanda began, her voice a little shaky but confident. "This event was more than just an organization. It represents what we can achieve when we believe in ourselves and in the people around us. Just a few weeks ago, I could never have imagined being here, standing before you, organizing something so grand. But I've learned that with courage, support, and a little faith, anything is possible." Applause filled the hall, and Amanda felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. As she stepped off the stage, Martha and Henry were there, ready to greet her with warm hugs. In that moment, Amanda knew she had not only found her place in the world, but also a new family. As she left the hall that night, Amanda looked up at the starry sky and took a deep breath. It was the end of an important chapter in her life, but the beginning of something even bigger. The road ahead was full of opportunities, and she knew she was ready for whatever came next. Because in the end, what started with a simple plate of food ended with the building of a life full of success, gratitude, and above all, purpose. And what do you think Amanda should have done when she was fired? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your opinion. Your participation is very important to us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Thank you for watching.